This is update for January 14th, 2025, day 1056 of the war, and of the date update. Also catch up since January 9th, the last video. I will not do macroeconomic update in this video, and I will do deep dive in the next video in a couple of days. There is a lot of information about China, US, and generally West. There is significant sort of movements are happening. I would say tectonic movements, as that we sort of probably not seeing. But I will provide a deep dive in the next video on that. Now I'm gonna want to mention just a few points about sort of strategic developments, and that would be Russia and Iran. Russia and Iran intending to sign strategic agreement on January 17th, when Iranian president is going to visit Russian president, meet with Russian president in Moscow. However, it sounds on the surface that that the alliance is being built. At the same time, it actually looks like more like a paper alliance. Just at least it doesn't seem to be something similar to what's going on with North Korea. So what happens is that this strategic alliance essentially states that Russia and Iran are going to cooperate on everything except for military side, which is the most important one in this case. And probably one of the reasons for the problem with this military sort of military strategic alliance is because Iran so far is not willing to recognize Ukrainian territories that were captured by Russia as part of Russia, and that's a biggest stumbling block between the two countries at this point. It's obviously possible that at any time this problem is gonna get resolved between the two, and then it will turn into military strategic alliance, something similar to what's going on with North Korea. At the same time, Iran is in really, I would say, bad situation at this moment. It lost control over Syria. It essentially lost control over Lebanon, and so it's definitely on retreat. They still maintain control over Yemen, and that's obviously the most, I would say, potent weapon in Iran's arsenal, and so that still is a threat to the entire Persian Gulf. But at the same time, Iranian capabilities are severely undermined by Israel, and I would say also by Turkey. There is a natural confrontation between Turkey and Iran, and that in sort of has two sides, or Turkey and Azerbaijan, and then on one sort of as one axis, and then the other axis is more Iran and Armenia. Except it's a very weak sort of link between Iran and Armenia because of the religious differences. But nevertheless, this is kind of like a fault line between these four countries, and obviously there's Russia participating in that, and the West as well. No less so, Russia doesn't seem to be having military alliance yet with Iran, but at the same time, there's another information. There was Ukrainian forces, Ukrainian side confirmed they captured a couple of North Korean soldiers. So at this point, it is firmly established, factually established, that there are North Korean troops in Russia. At the same time, from a Russian perspective, and generally from international perspective, it's not breaking any laws, because they strategically were placed to participate in a military action on the Russian territory in Kursk region. So because there is a military alliance between the two, so from a legal perspective, North Korea is helping Russia defend its territory. That's how it's being presented, and I mentioned many times before that Russian president is extremely careful about how to say, observing legal formalities, and that's obviously that's a sort of bureaucrat or bureaucratic nature of Russian president, which is, I would say, describe him. The primary description would be bureaucrat, not even KGB person. It's really about bureaucracy. So I would say there's not huge difference, not much surprise. It's something that Ukraine have to deal, and that's just reality on the battlefield. Now I'm actually going to switch to the reality on the battlefield, which is ugly, and per admission of many sort of insiders in Ukraine, it's getting uglier by day, and I would say people describe it as disastrous. Again, the only reason for this disaster situation is Ukrainian political leadership, which then obviously selects military leadership, which is completely incompetent. Both of them are completely incompetent. And then, as they say, the fish rots from the top. So it's always coming from the top, because modern countries are top-down systems. And so for that reason, the responsibility is fully within Ukraine, with Ukrainian president. Now let's actually walk through over the front line in a clockwise fashion, starting from north, from Kursk region actually. Things here are basically moving in the same direction of Ukrainian forces losing more territory that they control in Kursk region. No specific updates this time, but as I stated before, Russian troops are getting close to initiate fight for Sudzha from the southern side of it. Now let's look at situation north and northeast of Kharkiv. Things here are stable. Russian forces maintain their bridgeheads on Ukrainian territory, and this is really bridgeheads for future attack on Kharkiv. Kharkiv is, as I mentioned before, many times, it's extremely strategic city in Ukraine, and Russia, without any doubt, will try to capture it. Now let's move to North Lugansk or Lugansk front line. Things here are not moving well, not developing well for Ukrainian side. So Ukraine forces not finally, but they lost this village Terny. It was in process of being lost for a while. So now it's firmly confirmed. It's confirmed, and essentially, Ukrainian forces, as you can see, lost essentially all territory on this on the eastern side of this stream, with exception of this Serebransky forest, and essentially on retreat. And the only sort of positive development, or at least temporary positive development, is that Russian troops were not able to develop their initial advance towards village Kolodezi, which would then create direct threat for Liman and then also Slavyansk. But it looks like this is going to be one of the strategic directions for Russia, because this is sort of key for capturing Slavyansk, which is south of Liman down there. So I'm sure they're going to be pushing effort in this direction. Also, things are not going well north of Kupiansk. Russian troops are establishing more and more bridgeheads on the western bank of the Skill River, which again creates problems for defense of Kupiansk, and actually in the long run creating problem threat for Kharkiv from the eastern side. But obviously that's very far away. Now let's move south to North Donbass front line. The northern part is actually quiet, not much going on here. The southern part, the only active part, is actually the town of Chasiv Yar, and south of it, this road towards Konstantinivka, where Russian troops continuing their pressure along this road without much success. However, they did have success in Chasiv Yar, and Ukrainian forces lost that brick making factory, which really means that Chasiv Yar is going to be lost pretty soon, and this whole area is going to be lost pretty quickly as well. So this is sort of impending collapse of this whole section of the front line here. In addition, to sort of make it even sort of worse, is Ukrainian forces almost lost Toretsk, which is, as you can see here. So this will, loss of Chasiv Yar, Toretsk, and it's really just a pretty quick retreat towards Konstantinivka, and then there are fights for Konstantinivka. So this is sort of near future of this section of the front line. Now let's move to the central Donbass section of the front line. Russian troops have some relatively small advances, but nevertheless they do advance, and they are sort of dangerous advances, and I'll show it on the more detailed map. But the key point is they keep moving towards this village Udachne, this road that I'm showing here, and that's really the most dangerous advance that can happen at this moment. So this is a situation around Pokrovsk. As you can see, this is where I was mentioning Udachne. This is Udachne. This is Kotlyne. So Russian troops at this point are on outskirts of both villages. So as you can see, they advanced. They managed to capture this core, and then pretty quickly advanced past it. So what all this also means is this Pokrovsk was last center of coal mining in Ukraine, and more specifically coking coal, which is essential ingredient for making steel. So at this point, Ukrainian steel industry is essentially dead. Because Ukraine has still huge deposits of iron ore, and they're pretty cheap to extract. But the problem is now you don't have cheap coal, which makes then Ukrainian steel non-competitive on international market, because the main this is actually one of the main economic drivers and value generator for Ukraine in the past. At this point, this is essentially going to be lost without really opportunity to resurrect it, because this whole last mining region is essentially lost, and this specific mine that that's very important is here north of Udachne. This is where I'm showing it. It's a coking coal mine, so mining process has been stopped at this time. The other update is this initial breakthrough of Russian troops towards this intersection here. As you can see, so far slowed down, or I would say stopped. It's unclear the reason for that, whether it's not enough resources on Russian side, or sort of new reserves that being brought by Ukrainian command. But so far, the front line stabilized, probably temporarily in this area. At the same time, the most important is really advance here in this northwestern direction, and the Russian troops continuing also attempts to advance straight west as well. Now this is how the map looked on the 9th of January, as you can see. So as you can see, this is, I would say, pretty clearly showing this advances. Now let's move a little bit south. The more important part here is that Russian troops managed to capture village Yasenove here. So it really opens there for them opportunity to move, basically keep going west and also south and southwest, basically engulfing this Andriivka, which is a pretty large village and could be defended for a while, but if Russian troops sort of advancing in the southwestern direction, it's essential will have to be abandoned. At the same time, Russian troops putting strong pressure towards capturing the village Nadiivka. And then, as you can see, there's not much left to Dnipropetrovsk region of Ukraine, which I'm sure Russian troops will not stop and will continue moving forward. This is how it looked on the 9th. So there's not huge advances. You can see just village Yasenove. Now let's look at the situations a little bit more south in Kurakhove / Velika Novosilka area. There is not huge movements here, with exception of Ukrainian forces losing Yantarne, this village here, and so essentially they slowly but surely retreating towards Ulakli from this whole semi-pocket. That's really the Russian pressure here, for now at least, is on the lower end. Why it's unclear, whether there's not enough resources or there is some bigger plans. It's unclear, but so far pressure here is not that strong, with exception of this semi-pocket here. Now let's move to the situation on Zaporizhya front line. Things here are frozen. Not much is going on both sides. And let's finish with the situation along the Dnipro River. Things here also quiet. Nothing is happening here either. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye bye.